Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, Sergio Perez, Liam Lawson, Yuki Tsunoda. 5 drivers, 1 chair, 1 teammate. And every single one of them came out the other side looking worse than they went in. There's a seat in Formula 1 they call the poisoned chalice. It's the one next to Max Verstappen. And here's the strange part. It should be one of the best jobs on the grid. For most of the last decade, it's been a race-winning car. A seat that's delivered 4 world titles to the man in the other garage. So why does almost everyone who climbs in beside him suddenly seem to forget how to drive? That's Red Bull's second driver problem. Red Bull didn't build that trap on purpose, but they built the exact conditions that keep turning that seat into one. Let's start with the body count, because the numbers are staggering. Since Daniel Ricciardo walked away at the end of 2018, 6 different drivers have filled that second seat. Pierre Gasly got 12 races in 2019 before being demoted mid-season. Alex Albon got a season and a half before being dropped. Sergio Perez somehow survived 4 years. He arrived as a proven race winner and even threw everything at Hamilton in the 2021 title fight. But the seat ground him down anyway, and he was cut loose at the end of 2024. Then came Liam Lawson, who got 2 race weekends in 2025. Not 2 seasons, 2 weekends, before being yanked out and replaced by Yuki Tsunoda. And Tsunoda fared no better, limping to 17th in the championship on 33 points, in a car that scored Verstappen 421. 6 drivers since the end of 2018. Mercedes, by comparison, kept Valtteri Bottas alongside Lewis Hamilton for 5 straight seasons. One steady number 2, trusted and left alone to do the job. Red Bull, in the Verstappen era, has never come close to that kind of stability. So this isn't simply how Formula 1 works, it's how Red Bull works. And there are 2 reasons for it, plus a third that only showed up this season. The first is the car. The popular theory is that Red Bull deliberately designs it around Verstappen, and that's not quite right. They're not sculpting a trap on purpose. They build the fastest car they can, and it tends to come with a razor-sharp, nervous front end that bites the instant you ask too much of it. Verstappen can lean on that knife edge like nobody else alive. Everyone else climbs in, finds a car that demands absolute trust on corner entry, and slowly loses confidence trying to tame something balanced for a driver they aren't. But a difficult car alone doesn't explain 6 casualties. Plenty of teams build twitchy cars. Which brings us to the second reason, and this one is all Red Bull. Red Bull develops drivers better than almost anyone in the sport. The junior program produced Vettel, Verstappen himself, and nearly every name in this video. The problem isn't the developing, it's what happens after the promotion. The senior team runs on a sink or swim reflex. Get thrown in at the deep end, and if you don't swim immediately, you're gone. No runway, no patience, no time to adapt to a car that takes most drivers half a season to understand. Liam Lawson is the starkest example there's ever been. Red Bull had tracked him for years, even handed him a 5-race audition back in 2023, and still gave him exactly 2 weekends in the senior seat before deciding he'd failed. 2 weekends. Almost nobody could turn a top team seat around that fast, least of all in a car built around Verstappen. Compare that to the rest of the grid. Mercedes gave Bottas years to settle in behind Hamilton. Red Bull pulls the trigger faster than almost anyone out there. So when people say these drivers weren't good enough, they're dodging the obvious question. Good enough by what timeline? Nobody is good enough in 2 races. And we know that because of what happens the moment these drivers escape. Take Gasly. Months after Red Bull dropped him, he was back at the junior team on the podium in Brazil. And the following season, he won a Grand Prix outright at Monza. Or Albon, the man Red Bull decided wasn't good enough, who went to Williams, a far slower team, and rebuilt his entire career. In 2025, he finished 8th in the championship and outscored Carlos Sainz, a multiple race winner sitting in the identical car. Even Tsunoda's humiliation has a sting in the tail. Isack Hadjar, who started 2025 as Tsunoda's own teammate at the junior team, outscored him over the full season, in the slower machine. The Red Bull seat didn't prove these drivers were slow, it magnified every weakness until that became the only story anyone told about them. Now, in fairness, there's a rebuttal, and it's a good one. Maybe Verstappen is simply that good. Maybe the seat looks like a graveyard only because you're being measured against one of the greatest to ever do it, and anyone would look ordinary parked next to that.
There's truth in it, but it runs into one inconvenient name: Daniel Ricciardo. Back in 2014, Ricciardo walked into that exact Red Bull garage as the new boy alongside the reigning 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel, and beat him. 3 wins to 0, comfortably clearing the standings. And it was no fluke. 2014 was the first year of Formula 1's turbo hybrid era, a total reset that left even Vettel scrambling to adapt, while the new arrival adapted instantly. So the seat isn't unwinnable, it can be conquered. The catch is what conquering it now demands: a driver already elite who adapts on day one, because Red Bull's culture grants 0 time to grow into it. The car wants a generational talent, the team wants instant results. Miss either bar and you're finished before you've started. And it never only cost the drivers. For most of the Verstappen era, Red Bull ran a title-winning car while the second garage churned and under-delivered, a self-inflicted wound at the very top of the sport. Then 2026 arrived, and with it that third piece of the puzzle, the one nobody could see until the car itself changed. The biggest rule reset in a generation: new engines, sustainable fuel, a brand new Red Bull Ford power unit, knocks Red Bull clean off their perch. They sit 4th now, well behind Mercedes, Ferrari and McLaren, with Verstappen himself calling the car a nightmare and fighting it every single lap. And here's the fascinating part: in that struggling car, the curse has gone quiet. Isack Hadjar, the very man now sitting in the chair that broke the last 5, qualified 3rd in Australia, with Verstappen of all people crashing out of that same session. He finished 5th in Canada. He lined up 5th again in Monaco. He isn't being buried, he's racing, and the gap to Verstappen is a gap now, not the canyon that swallowed Tsunoda. Don't overread it, Hadjar may simply be the best of the recent bunch. He did beat both Tsunoda and Lawson last year, and when even Verstappen is wrestling the car, the gap to any teammate shrinks. It's a hint, not a verdict. But it's a telling one, because it exposes that third factor. It was never just that the Red Bull was hard to drive, it was that the car's very greatness was part of the trap. A dominant machine sculpted around one driver makes everyone beside him look lost. Strip the dominance away and the second driver can finally breathe. Which is what the whole carousel has been quietly screaming all along. The problem was never only the men in the seat. It was the car, and a team too impatient to let anyone learn it. So here's where it lands. On paper, the seat next to Max Verstappen is the best promotion in Formula 1. In reality, it has been the most dangerous job in the sport. Not because anyone rigged it, but because the conditions almost guaranteed failure. Right now, with a difficult car and a driver finally given room to breathe, Isack Hadjar is doing the one thing Red Bull's recent second drivers rarely managed: looking like he belongs. The real test comes when Red Bull builds a quick car again, because if that gap snaps back to a canyon the moment the dominance returns, we'll know what this really was all along. Less a problem with the drivers, and more a seat and a team that keeps breaking them.